welcome to Green Rev 2025. I would now like to invite on stage to deliver the welcome address and his thoughts on India's biofuels vision, Vijay Murugesh Nirani, founder of TruAlt Bioenergy.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, partners from NDTV, fellow changemakers, friends. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the very first edition of Green Rev, our flagship platform to spark conversations, share solutions, and inspire action in the bioenergy revolution. Today marks the start of something special, not just for TruAlt Bioenergy, and not just for India, but for the planet we all share. Because what we are beginning here is not just the conference, it's a movement that will define how 1.5 billion of us live and breathe in the decades to come. Let's begin with the big picture. India is one of the fastest booming economy, and we are growing at the speed of light in literal sense. The global energy demand is set to grow by over 25% by 2040. At the same time, to avoid a catastrophic climate change, we need to cut global CO2 emissions nearly in half by 2030. Now, as we have seen the era of how the fossil or the energy transition has happened, right from your era of coal to crude to renewables, now is the time for welcoming the bio revolution. Imagine a future where your car runs on ethanol, your shoes are made from bio rubber, your packaging is compostable polylactic acid, and your shampoo bottle comes from renewable source feedstock. That's the circular bioeconomy that we're talking about. The dinosaurs gave us fossil fuels, but we don't need to wait another 65 million years for the next batch. We can grow our own from season after season. My fellow changemakers, Green Rev is more than an event. It is a platform for cleaner air, stronger rural economies, and a sustainable planet. On behalf of TruAlt Bioenergy and our partners at NDTV, Honeywell, Raj Processes, and of course ISMA, I thank you for being here, making sure that Green Rev is a big success. May the conversations we start today ignite the actions that will change tomorrow. Let's make the green revolution truly revolutionary. Thank you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Shri Nitin Gadkari, the Honorable Union Minister for Road Transport and Highways, who will now address us on moving towards a green transport future. Shri Nitin Gadkari.
India is the most important and largest growing economy in the world. The wasteland in India is 55 lakh square kilometers. That is 17% of the total land. And our 55% of the population belongs to agriculture and rural India. Today, this is the first time in India our government has taken the initiative by which it is to be a success story, that is diversification of agriculture towards energy and power sector. हमारे किसान केवल अन्नदाता नहीं है, वो ऊर्जादाता बने हैं. ऊर्जादाता नहीं, ईंधनदाता बने हैं. और ईंधन दाता नहीं, अब बिटुमिन दाता बने हैं. और अब बिटुमिन दाता नहीं, एविएशन फ्यूल बना रहे हैं. और अब हाइड्रोजन दाता भी बनेंगे. और ये जो एक रिवोल्यूशनरी चेंज हुआ है, वो हमारे देश के तस्वीर को बदलने वाला है. और मुझे ये भी विश्वास है कि आज हम बड़ी तेजी से हमारा ऑटोमोबाइल सेक्टर प्रगति और विकास की ओर आगे जा रहा है. एक समय वर्ल्ड में हमारा नंबर 7वां था, आज हमारा नंबर 3रा है. ये इंडस्ट्री है जिसने अब तक 4 करोड़ युवा 4.5 करोड़ युवाओं को जॉब दिया है. ये इंडस्ट्री है जिसने जीएसटी के रूप में भारत सरकार और राज्य सरकार को कंट्रीब्यूट किया है. पर इसके साथ साथ आज हमारे यहाँ इसका दुष्परिणाम भी एक है कि हमारी टोटल पोल्यूशन में आज हमारा 40% पोल्यूशन ये हमारे फॉसिल फ्यूल के कारण हो रहा है. और मुझे लगता है यही हमारा सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज है. ये जो एयर पोल्यूशन है, इसको कम करने के लिए हम सब लोग ने संकल्प भी किया है और नेट जीरो की ओर हम जा रहे हैं. ये जो नेट जीरो इमिशन बाय 2070, ये टारगेट जो प्रधानमंत्री जी ने हमको दिया है, उसके लिए ट्रांसपोर्ट सेक्टर में हमको काफ़ी बड़े कार्य करने की आवश्यकता है. मुझे खुशी है कि अल्टरनेटिव फ्यूल और बायोफ्यूल पर हमारे देश में बहुत तेज़ी से काम हो रहा है. इलेक्ट्रिक, इथेनॉल, मेथेनॉल, बायोडीजल, एलएनजी, सीएनजी और ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन, इन सब बातों में जोरों पे काम हो रहा है। मुझे लगता है कि आने वाले समय में जो जो भी पर्याय उपलब्ध है, उन पर्यायों का उपयोग करके और प्रदूषण को भी कम करना है। हमारे किसानों ने इथेनॉल की शुरुआत की, शुगर केन जूस, मोलाइसिस से। फिर कॉर्न से इथेनॉल बन रहा है, ब्रोकन राइस से बन रहा है, बाम्बू से बन रहा है और परली से भी बन रहा है। आने वाले समय में निश्चित रूप से फ्लेक्स इंजन की ओर हम जा रहे हैं, जिसमें हमारी बड़ी बड़ी ऑटोमोबाइल कंपनियां अब फ्लेक्स इंजन लॉन्च कर रहे हैं, जिसके कारण हम 100% बायो इथेनॉल का उपयोग करेंगे। दूसरी ओर पेट्रोल में भी 20% तक इथेनॉल अभी तक आया है। अभी ट्रायल चल रही है, क्योंकि ब्राज़ील में 27% इथेनॉल जो है वो डाला जाता है, और यही हमारे यहाँ जो ऑटोमोबाइल ब्रांड्स हैं वही ब्राज़ील में उपलब्ध है। हमारे देश में ये ट्रायल चल रही है ARAI में। उनके बाद ये ट्रायल सक्सेस होने के बाद वो पेट्रोलियम मिनिस्ट्री को रिकमेंड करेंगे, इसके स्टैंडर्ड्स भी निश्चित होंगे और उसके बाद भी उसका निर्णय भारत सरकार करेगी। पर मुझे इस बारे में खुशी है कि आज 20% इथेनॉल जो डाला जा रहा है, इसके बारे में जानबूझकर कोई लॉबीज है जो पॉलिटिकली और पेट्रोलियम लॉबी को सपोर्ट करने के लिए दुष्प्रचार करती है। ये कहा गया कि इथेनॉल के कारण व्हीकल में प्रॉब्लम आ रहा है, जबकि इसकी एक भी कंप्लेंट कोई आई नहीं है। इसके साथ साथ मुझे इस बात की खुशी है कि इसमें काफ़ी संशोधन चल रहा है। आने वाले समय में आइसोब्यूटेनॉल के क्षेत्र में भी संशोधन चल रहा है, उसकी ट्रायल होगी, और अगर वो डीजल में भी डाल सके वो हमारे लिए बहुत बड़ी कामयाबी होगी। हम आइसोब्यूटेनॉल बेस्ड इंजन भी तैयार करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। मुझे बहुत खुशी है कि आने वाले समय में राइस स्ट्रॉ, उसके साथ साथ नेपियर ग्रास, प्रेस मड, बाम्बू, इसका उपयोग करके बायो CNG के भी प्लांट देश में शुरू हो रहे हैं। करीब 90 प्लांट शुरू हो रहे हैं और 350 प्लांट प्रोसेस में है। मैं आने वाले समय में ये जो नए बायोफ्यूल के लिए, बायो एनर्जी के लिए जो हमारी अलग अलग प्रकार के जो इंसेंटिव्स हैं, वो इंसेंटिव्स हमको लोगों तक पहुंचाना होगा। मैं और आपको एक बात कहना चाहूँगा कि बायो एनर्जी 1.6 लाख करोड़ की इकोनॉमी बन गई है, 10 लाख लोगों को जॉब मिला है, और 50% से ज़्यादा इंडिया फॉसिल फ्यूल का भी कंजम्पशन है। तो भी हमको बहुत दूर जाना है और बड़े प्रमाण पर इसका उपयोग करना है, और ये करने के लिए ऑटोमोबाइल सेक्टर भी आगे आया है। अभी हाइड्रोजन भी हमारा भविष्य है, और हाइड्रोजन में फ्यूचरिस्टिक टेक्नोलॉजी और फ्यूचरिस्टिक विजन के साथ हमको हाइड्रोजन का भी विचार करना होगा।
In this panel on ethanol, from mandate to mainstream, that's our topic. We will focus on India's transition in ethanol blending from policy targets to now widespread reality. Joining me for this very interesting discussion today are Anurag Saraugi, Ashwini Srivastav, Deepak Balani, and Naveen Soni. Thank you, all of you, for taking the time out. I'd like to begin this conversation with a question to Mr. Srivastav. Ethanol offers opportunity to reduce India's sugar surplus and also benefit farmers. So what efforts are underway to encourage sugarcane growing farmers to participate in ethanol-linked cropping strategies?
Farmers has been and will be at the center of our policy formulation always. Sugarcane is one of the most valuable crop in India, and our sugarcane farmers are almost at par with sugarcane farmers of other countries in productivity. To encourage sugarcane farmers, government announces FRP every year on the recommendation of CSCP. For sustainability, government is promoting per drop more crop scheme, that is for micro irrigation purpose. At present, coverage of micro irrigation in sugarcane cultivation states, basically Maharashtra, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, it's about 30%. But in Telangana, it's 70%. So subsidies available under per drop more crop scheme, 55% subsidy for small and marginal farmers, and it's 45% for other farmers.
I'll move to Mr. Saraugi with my next question. How is BPCL preparing its fuel retail infrastructure?
Let this not be a reality for only BPCL. I think there are multiple stakeholders in the entire event, and the fellow OMCs both Indian Oil and HPCL. So whatever I would be talking is on behalf of the oil marketing companies. Let me take you back a little, 2-3 years back, when we were having only an availability of about 350 crore liters,
Yes.
which would not have done where we are today. And in that, the contribution of both, not really from the OMC side, we come a little later than the distillers. So I would like to compliment ISMA and the grain-based distilleries for making it happen more than we are recipients of the ethanol that they produce. So we only did one good thing over then, that we signed a few long-term agreements to help the industry to develop. So coming to the supply chain side of it, they provide ethanol as per the specs that we want, which is good for blending into petrol. There are other qualities also, the industrial alcohol side and the after 8 p.m. side. That is also there.
Right.
So what we get, we pre-blend it at the terminals. And then only it goes to the petrol pumps to deliver.
My next question is to Mr. Balani. Can India's sugar mills sustain ethanol production at E20 levels and beyond without impacting food security?
Having said that, the sugar industry itself has a capacity of producing 900 crore liter today. And with grain, it becomes almost 1,800 crore liter. So I believe the capacity isn't a problem. Even with 90 to 95% efficiency, sugar industry itself could provide ethanol of almost 750 crore liter, which is way beyond what is required today. The second part of your question, sugar sector, specifically for last 10 years, apart from 1 year in the between, we have been producing more sugar than what we consume. Sugar industry, specifically the consumption of sugar, is almost stagnated or maybe only increasing at a very smaller level. And I think way beyond, we will be continuously growing more sugarcane than what we require. So I think we can perhaps, in a longer run, divert more for ethanol for petrol blending.
Right. At this point, let's get in an automaker's view. Do you think Indian consumers are ready for ethanol-powered vehicles, and what role do you think OEMs can play in this, in educating the market?
I think it's a joint responsibility of all stakeholders sitting here. If I were to borrow a phrase from what I've been reading Mr. Balani saying, it's a national imperative. I would like to say it's an irreversible national imperative. Right. Because we have this commitment that we have to make these vehicles more and more green and more environmental friendly, right? And from a consumer point of view, he has to consider whether it's the environmental impact versus the economic impact. So when we are talking about these vehicles, whether it's FFVs or any other class of vehicles which is capable of handling more and more ethanol blends, the important thing is that, there will be cost implications.
Right.
You're adding something to the vehicle to make it more compliant.
Right. From here, I'll come to Mr. Saraugi. You did touch upon the angle of the consumers. What would it take for ethanol to become a mainstream alternative?
I think standalone or only ethanol, that's one thing. When you hear E100, you should actually see it. And ethanol, when burns, does not have a flame to look at.
Right.
So it's not, possible. So whatever ethanol we are buying is not to be sold as standalone fuel. I think what it would take for ethanol to become mainstream would largely depend on how the vehicle proliferation takes place.
I'll come back to you, Mr. Soni. What are the key barriers that will prevent mass adoption of FFVs?
I think we have to look at other economies which have done successfully this business.
Yes.
And Brazil comes to mind, everybody's mind when we are
Correct.
talking about these things. So go back in time and see what they have done. From 1975 when the oil crisis just happened, they took a decision that 70% fuel import that is happening has now today turned into 72% local import substitution by ethanol. Now, these kind of vehicles can and will be produced as the market requires. Even the vehicles that we were selling way back in 2015, if I'm not wrong, were compliant to E20, right? So offering these technologies at to the market without having any adverse impact on the vehicle. It's technically called as over-engineering these vehicles. So it is possible to offer these technologies as long as all these parameters fit into the jigsaw puzzle, whereas these can be provided. Technology-wise, I don't see a challenge.
I'll move to Mr. Balani. What are the specific policy or pricing reforms that would encourage sugar mills to invest more in ethanol distillation capacity?
Now, there are two sides of it. One is on the demand side and one is on the supply side. On demand side, you will have to make the technology cheaper, affordable by the consumers, because the cost of manufacturing of flexi-fuel is slightly more than the normal ICE vehicles.
Yes.
So how do you really compensate it?
Yeah.
You have currently the GST structure on flexi-fuel vehicle is 28%, while the EVs it is 5%.
Right.
But if you actually see the well-to-wheel emissions, the emission reduction in flexi-fuel is much larger, while EVs you are only calculating the tailpipe emissions.
Yes.
So I believe the entire tax structure has to be path agnostic, depending on how much carbon emissions you are reducing, how much you are basically reducing the imports of the crude oil, and how basically you are benefiting the farmer. So I believe that GST structure has to be normalized.
Yes, right.
And on the supply side, I believe we will have to have the PLI schemes for the auto manufacturers. We will have to include the biogenic factor of the biofuel in the CAFE norms. Also have a scheme like EV has, a FAME scheme, which will perhaps bring down the cost of manufacturing incentive for the manufacturers, so that they can come out with the flexi-fuel vehicles. So these are some of the things which needs to be done by the government. Then only we'll see the flexi-fuel and smart hybrids on this. On the second part of your question, see, basically, as I said, we have enough capacity. The sugar industry is ready to provide 600, 700 crore liter. But it completely depends on the pricing. But at the same time, my input cost, which is also decided by the government, and my output cost, which is the cost of the ethanol, is also decided by the government. Right. So I believe if the government is increasing my input cost, which is my raw material, there has to be a corresponding increase in the ethanol cost.
My next question is to you, Mr. Soni. From an automaker's perspective, what are the specific incentives or regulatory clarity that you will look for?
I think as you must understand that for an automaker, if you are defining anything in the future, there is a lead time that is required to construct those kind of technologies and adapt those for the vehicles that are to be sold. So from that point of view, the government has two tools available with them. Either it's the mandate or the incentives. Right? So from the mandate point of view, they can mandate these compliance regulations, etc., from the policy standpoint. But incentives point of view, definitely there are two broad incentives that fall under. One is the GST thing, which was elaborated by Mr. Balani, and also the CAFE, which becomes an important tool. All these, at the end of it, become a decision-making box for any OEM to kind of decide. What are the things that we have to consider is how viable it is, how much additional cost will go into this, and what is the longevity of this whatever schedule or parameter that we are talking about.
Thank you so much. On that note, we will end this panel. India generates over 500 million tons of agricultural residue and municipal waste every year. Much of it is burned, dumped, or left to rot, costing us clean air, lost energy, and billions in untapped value. But what if every stalk, husk, and food scrap could be transformed into fuel, chemicals, and high-value products? And today, we're talking about just that, turning waste into wealth. And joining me on this panel are Nikhil Moge, Priyanka Dhingra, Vibha Dhawan, Ravi Gupta, and Shishir Priyadarshi. Welcome to all of you. My first question to Priyanka Dhingra. How do institutional investors like SBI MF currently view the advanced biofuel sector? Is it high growth opportunity or a high risk bet?
I represent the capital markets, and for us, bioeconomy, the whole circular bioeconomy is not only a high risk bet, but also a very high opportunity, high growth bet. if the ecosystem develops in the right manner. If all the parts of the vehicle are together, moving together, then it's a great opportunity. So whether it comes to policy frameworks, whether it comes to offtake agreements, whether it is right pricing of the biomaterials, the ways to collect it, supply chains, and the end user, all of these, and the techno-commercial viability.
Right.
If all of these are working hand in hand, then definitely it's a huge opportunity.
I'll come to Mr. Gupta. What do you face challenges to secure year-round feedstock supply? If yes, what are the opportunities that arise out of it, or what are the solutions that you're looking out of it?
So far, sugar industry being an old industry is quite structured in terms of our collection of sugarcane, which is our basic raw material. So in places like UP, we have a 15 kilometers of catchment area. From there, the sugarcane is collected. In other places, the zoning is not there, but there is a contours in which. So far, the collection has not been the problem for the sugar industry. But going forward, again, I'm repeating the same thing, that going forward, if sugar industry has to become big in CBG, for example, then the collection of agriculture residues will become a task for thing. My bigger goal is that sugar industry, or any industry for that matter, should not look at producing CBG only from press mud or the spent wash. They have to have multiple raw materials so that they can scale the production. And once you scale the production, that the delivery infrastructure can match with that.
Yeah.
So going forward, the biggest challenge for the sugar industry will be to collect the agriculture residues to be converted to CBG.
I'll move to Mr. Priyadarshi from here. What role, in your experience, should large conglomerates play in anchoring big-ticket investments in the Indian bioeconomy ecosystem?
Look, any area where both the returns are somewhat uncertain, and especially if they have a long gestation period, then it is but natural that it's the bigger players which need to come in first.
Yeah.
And if the country requires it, and at the moment the country definitely requires it, because you've got these two very divergent claims of 2047 and 2070.
Yes.
And if you are to match 2047 with 2070, not forgetting that 2047 comes 23 years before, then absolutely biofuels have such a major role to play. But to convert that opportunity, as you were mentioning, into an actual, something on the ground, look, the bigger players will definitely have to be the one off the ground, because they have the liquidity, they have the capacity to take risk. They also have the capacity, because of their previous experience, for far better and efficient project management. So really, they've got to hold the country's and the biofuel flag high.
I'll move to Mr. Moghe from there. From an advisory standpoint, what business models or financing structures you think can make advanced biofuel projects more bankable for investors?
So if you talk of financial structures or business models, see, one of the most important things that any investor would look like is what's the risk and whether that risk is covered or not, right? So there are certain guarantee products which are available in the market, which actually helps the investors to gain confidence. And then beyond guarantee products, there are some risk sharing facilities which have been already defined by some of the global funding institutes for these kind of products, right? Which are like in their, I would say, in nascent stages, right? So the products exist, it's just how we dovetail in the Indian ecosystem, right? And to top it up with the Government of India policies.
On that note, we will end this panel. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for making the time.